Cardano is absolutely rocketing right now, with prices reaching over 65 cents and new yearly highs. It's been absolutely killing it. In today's video, we're going to be jumping down into the world of Cardano. I'm going to be talking through a few of the things that are going on with the price action, with some of the on-chain data, and what I think is in store for Cardano's ADA in the future. As I get into today's video, if you do find it useful, informative, smash that like button. I do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗏𝗂. With Cardano's ADA reaching new yearly highs, it has created additional FOMO for Cardano's ADA. And it's interesting because the structures on the chart are looking very, very impulsive, yet are failing to actually hit those impulsive trigger points around the 1.618 fib scale. It's quite interesting also when we jump into the on-chain data, which we'll get into later in today's video. So Cardano's ADA has moved up very nicely, and we have seen a lot of FOMO, we've seen a lot of search volume, we've seen a lot of increased interest in Cardano, and this is only really a taster of what I think is to come. I think Cardano is poised for an explosive rally in 2024, and what we're seeing right now is really only just the beginning. This is something that I was talking about in the last Cardano video. Essentially, Cardano's ADA is poised for explosive growth on the concept that supply is shrinking and demand is growing. Now, the demand that we've seen so far, pushing ADA's price above 65 cents, is really just a taster. And we can see this within the data on-chain as well. But before we get to the on-chain data, we also need to kind of reflect on the TVL for Cardano as well. We were talking about Cardano's TVL in the previous video, where we were just short of 400 million in total value locked. Now we are above 400 million. And it's really quite impressive to see, specifically on the charts, which I'll bring up behind me here. As you can kind of see, we've seen explosive growth in the amount of ADA, or dollar value ADA, locked up. This gives us huge amounts of hope that the future is going to be very, very positive for Cardano. Seeing consecutive shrinkage of supply being locked up gives you a lot of ground to think about what actually drives price action, the supply and demand. So when we start seeing the TVL shooting up like this, not only do we understand that price action drives that TVL, but we also can see that it's actually quite incremental and is really positive on the supply of ADA shrinking. Now, when we flip this and turn it into ADA rather than dollar value, as you can see behind me, this shows us that actually the amount of ADA that is being locked up in total value locked is increasing at an alarming rate. This is significantly more impressive than the dollar value, and also shows you that during price movements to the upside, the amount of ADA being locked up is increasing. It's been increasing for quite some time, and we are now above 700 million. We were just below that in the previous video. So we can see hundreds of millions of ADA is just being locked up. Now, obviously TVL for ADA is slightly different than something like Ethereum, for example, but it is still really positive to see that kind of growth element in TVL. Now, TVL, as I said before, impacts the supply side of the equation when it comes to supply and demand. Supply and demand is what dictates your price. And I did see a lot of comments in the previous video talking about what would the market cap be if Cardano's ADA were to skyrocket to $26. And I want to kind of just put this out there so that everyone is really crystal clear. Market cap is a product of price. It cannot be preventing price movement, it cannot halt price movement, and it cannot hinder price movement. Market cap doesn't represent liquidity, it doesn't show you how much money's gone into anything, it only shows you an idea of value, but it actually uses the price to show you that value, which means that price dictates market cap, meaning that market cap is reliant on price. So just to kind of put that into kind of concept for you guys, specifically if there are any haters in the keyboard area getting really confused about market cap, the market cap in itself can be whatever the price tells it it's going to be. Which means $26 ADA, yeah, sure, we'll have over $1 trillion market cap. It really doesn't matter because market cap isn't real money, it is the idea of money. There's actually a lot less money in the crypto space than what the market caps of all of these projects will tell you. And it's understanding the difference between market cap or price and liquidity. All these are really key, important things that I think retail investors need to do a better or learn better and understand better about them so that they can be more educated in the decisions that they're making. Unfortunately, there's a lot of retail investors that just see, a really high market cap and just think that's an impossibility. The same mistakes were made in Bitcoin in the real early days. We aren't talking about market cap being derived from value of a company and the assets that they have on their books or anything like that. We are talking about supply demand changing the price of an asset and the price of that asset being used to calculate their market cap. It's very, very different. Think of it more like gold, which if the supply of gold suddenly drops, the price of gold goes skyrocketing and the market cap of gold also skyrockets with it. Understanding that the market cap of gold does not represent the amount of money in gold, right? It's the same concept for these tokenized assets that we find ourselves in. Very important that we understand that. So with TVL growing, supply shrinking, the only other part of the argument that you need to see is growth in the demand, which we've seen a little taster of, and I will emphasize a little taster, because when we take a look at the on-chain data, we can see that Cardano is actually in a very interesting spot of capitulation. And when I say capitulation, I'm not talking about price action capitulation, but wallet count capitulation. We can see there is a growth of larger investors with more than 100,000 ADA on the increase. Whales, basically, a million ADA or more, right? We can see them increasing. Whilst at the same time, we can see the smaller wallets, 1,000 or less, decreasing. This shows us that there is this element of retail investors selling their ADA to the larger investor for Cardano. And those Cardano investors are potentially locking that value up for a yield, okay? So we can see that although we're in the very beginning of a run to the upside, I expect a big capitulation event as basically we see big drop in the price action of ADA. The TVL will of course drop, but I think we're gonna hold up quite well from a TVL ADA point of view. Essentially what I'm trying to tell you, probably poorly articulating, you can let me know in the comments below, is that the supply and the demand for ADA is absolutely everything when it comes to the price action. And if we want to see price action continue to rally up, then we're going to have to see the supply drop and we're going to have to see the demand increase. With a lot of dApps looking to launch on the Cardano ecosystem in the future, I think we are going to see a lot of additional demand for ADA, specifically as more institutional level investors or whale investors start to get involved in ADA. We're going to see, more and more people starting to talk more positively about ADA as price starts to move up. We'll also start to see a lot of the kind of the noise around some of the nonsense of ghost chains and stuff like that kind of dying out, I think, in 2024 as more projects launch on the ecosystem. I do think that Cardano is going to be in for a fantastic run in the next bullish market. 30,000% plus, I think, is on the horizon here as we head out towards $26. By no stretch of the imagination, though, am I delusional in thinking that $26 is likely to get achieved unless absolutely everything works out perfectly for ADA. And what I mean by that is that all of their ducks have to be lined up and all the stars have to align perfectly so that we can see that progression upwards. Now, $26 is a technical target if you zoom out far enough on the weekly time frame. I know that some people in the comments couldn't see how we kind of derive $26. It's on a one-to-one logarithmic chart, logarithmic scale on your Fibonacci retracement tools. This is all basic stuff. Join us in Discord if you want me to show you how to do all that. And you can get to $26 on a one-to-one basis. We can actually go significantly higher if you go to the 1.236 fib scale. But again, these things are very unrealistic in one bullish market. Ultimately, my conservative targets have been and will remain $6 to $12 ADA. I feel that's a very comfortable place to be aiming for. And obviously, we don't expect absolutely everything to line up perfectly for Cardano. There will be the occasional hiccup in the road that will prevent you from kind of reaching those higher range expectations. But I think long term, if we think multi-year, multi-cycle, I can't see a reason why Cardano cannot exceed $20. Can't see why Cardano couldn't exceed $50 over a significant period of time, given, of course, everything going right and everything playing out as intended for the ADA network and ecosystem. So all in all, I think we can see some interesting things. TVL on the up, growing nicely, 700 million ADA locked up. We can see whales accumulate and retail investors selling off, and these are all positives because they are giving us that kind of idea and that picture as to where we are heading in the future. I see Cardano maybe retracing back a bit. We can't just continue to push up the way that we have been. As I kind of talk about at the beginning of this video, we can see that ADA has moved up in very nice strong movements, but they're not yet impulsive, so we can't think of it as a trend to the upside, but just corrected from an Elliott wave theory point of view. I think the bottom is probably in. There are still a couple of bearish situations, but the probability of those is very, very low now. But I do see a retracement down to low 30s, high 20s, something to that effect, I think is something that we need to see. New bear market lows could only happen, in my opinion now, is if we have some kind of black swan event that really does tank the entire market. Binance maybe. We can look into that as you will. But I think there's many different reasons as to why you might want to kind of think bearishly, but I think ultimately that's not really the right outlook. I think you've got to be more open to the idea of up or down rather than bullish bearish, because a lot of people kind of get hung up on the idea that you're in a bear market or a bull market. Ultimately, the only thing that really matters is whether you get the direction right. Is the direction down or is the direction up? And I think the next big move after this recent run is to the downside, as it is always the case. Big run up, corrective structures back down, and that is the opportunity, because that's how I want to label it. It's the opportunity of a lifetime, in my opinion. So why not check out Discord? Link is in the description below. We'll continue the conversation down there if you're interested. Other than that, I think I'm going to wrap this video up right there. If you have found it useful, informative, smash that like button. I do appreciate that. If you're new, subscribe, join the channel by clicking the link to Discord down below. Until the next one though, guys, have a fantastic day.